Hello, everybody, and welcome to Entrepreneur Lives. Today, we've got Jack Middleton with us, and Jack is going to share what he does and how he does it. Jack, welcome. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks very much for having me, Barry. I'm doing very well.
Good, good, good. Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on. So it's definitely been a roller coaster for a few years. But yeah, I suppose my journey kind of began, I guess, was almost 4 years ago now. And I actually started a little video marketing business at the time.
Yeah,
And that business actually did quite well for the first swing at the bat. We won a competition with Bank of Ireland. We won a little bit of money. And really what it kind of showed me was the kind of the path of an entrepreneur, which soon to find out isn't so straightforward. Uh, but at that time, it was very old school, door-to-door sales to kind of get those first few clients. And that's when I realized that the first skill that I needed to really master was that skill of sales, which I'm sure has served you well over the years as well, Barry.
yeah,
And yeah, then I worked for Google for a few years on the sales side of the business. And it's only more recently now that I've kind of transitioned into the world of online advertising.
yeah,
And yeah, I've teamed up with a team or a company in the US called Rapid Response Online.
yeah.
And they've driven over $2 billion in sales, over 40 million leads generated. So yeah, it's really my job now to kind of capture that attention and yeah, really just help the businesses that we work with to monetize that data.
Right. Tell us a bit more then about the lead gen, and I suppose when we talk about lead gen, it doesn't matter what type of service or business you run. It really is, about putting it into the right context and utilizing it.
Sure. 100%. Yeah. So really the biggest thing that I've learned, since I've kind of transitioned into this space is, first and foremost, it's kind of about approaching with the right mindset. I'm sure you'd agree that it's a big part, no matter what the space you're doing is. Uh, so so what I mean by the mindset, I kind of got to tell you a story. It might sound a little bit strange, but um, I was listening to a lad speak the last day, and he's been very successful in the online advertising space. And he's telling a story about two of his friends, and one of his friends, or sorry, they're both running the exact same like advertising campaign promoting the same product
Yeah.
as an affiliate. And they're both running very similar ads. They both have access to the same tools. But one of the guys generated over $5 million in sales. And then the other guy generated $350,000 in sales, but he actually lost $50,000. So that kind of kicked the conversation in his mind then as like, how can two people run the exact same, pretty much the exact same advertisement?
Yeah.
One guy makes 5 million and the other guy loses 50K. And what he discovered, and it really kind of fueled his journey then, was even when you're running the same ads, it starts with having the right mindset.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, do you have much experience with that whole
Yeah.
side of things, Barry?
Sure. Look, it's any business. I have seen it so many times. I can be very choosy in who I work with purely
Sure.
for that point. Because sometimes you can meet somebody, and I'm sure it's the very same in your line of business. So you can meet somebody and they want success, which is fine. But they're not hungry for success. All they want is the money. They want to have the trappings of what the money will give them, but they're not hungry enough. And when they're not hungry enough, they're not prepared to do what it takes. But not only are they not prepared to do what it takes, they haven't got the right mindset to do what it takes. So,
Exactly.
I always revert back to the basis of that somebody needs to work on their mindset first. And, when I
Mhm.
talk about mindset, I'm talking about feelings and emotions, attaching yourself, desire, passion, persistence. There's so many different elements to it that it's vital that you hone in on that and I suppose like get proficient with that before you actually can start to see a change in your business or your earnings. And what you've just the story you just told is exactly the same scenario.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, and it sounds a bit far-fetched when you first come across it, but once you start to kind of experience, the power of kind of working on your mind, and specifically the subconscious mind,
Yeah.
um, that's really when, personally anyway, I've seen the biggest breakthroughs. Yeah, and it even relates to advertising today because, I'm not sure how much you've kind of gone into the topic of the subconscious mind, but it's quite a rabbit hole. There's quite a bit to it, but
I've
the bottom
studied it
line
for the
is that
last
it's,
8 years.
say it again.
I've studied it for the last 8 years.
Ah, well, no better man to
And
kind of chat
yeah,
about the subconscious mind then, because yeah, I mean, like, honestly, Barry, for years I was like, all right, what's the marketing strategy? What's the tactic? And we can of course discuss tactics, but the biggest thing that I've learned in kind of, transitioning into this space is like the tactics without that subconscious mind on board. The best analogy I can give is it's like having one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brakes.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's first and foremost. Is just kind of having your subconscious mind on board with, the right programming is really what it comes down to.
for sure. Look, when we look at the subconscious mind, that's obviously where all our habits and our paradigms sit. But when we
Yeah,
look at the conscious mind, we can read a book. So it's a bit like a training course. You take on somebody that wants to do advertising.
sure.
Now they're putting it on your shoulders. They're giving you their, bottom dollar, and then they think that, they're going to get leads coming out of their ears.
Yeah,
But they haven't got the right mindset. They're not hungry for it. They just think that you're doing it. Whereas if you're taking action or the person's taking action in the background and helping the flow of the situation, sometimes you could look at it a bit like vibration as well. You're in the right vibration to
completely,
attract what you want. And then,
completely.
it's a two-way street. Everybody's happy. But certainly when you look at somebody that doesn't have the desire, the passion, and the hunger, and maybe they have a couple of bad habits, a couple of, bad paradigms, the only way to change that is by looking at what it is they want and then constantly, the repetition of playing that over and over in their mind and then starting to work towards it. And that is really the only way to change your mindset.
Completely, completely. Yeah, and it's the vibration there, as you say, it's really about kind of tuning into a frequency, and it's, again, it seems very far-fetched until you start to kind of see
Yeah.
the power of it firsthand, and like also how quick things can change once you start to kind of, become a little bit more aware of the frequency that you're tuning into. And yeah, I actually know another guy. He's a very successful advertiser. Just to kind of wrap up the woo-woo section.
Yeah.
Um, he's running like a $30 million a year business, and he sold it. And he actually started to notice that whenever he was running his ads, whenever he would like look at his ads, like look at his ad account, like too much, he was actually like projecting this weird energy onto the ads, and they would start like not performing as well. But he found when he just let them go, tuned into that abundant frequency, his ads started performing better. Like crazy, crazy stuff. But
Totally. Look, it's a bit like watching the kettle, when it's boiling. It's the same thing, you're putting the wrong energy into it because it seems to take longer to happen. And for
yeah.
sure, when and it is really about letting go because it's a bit like, a business owner, an entrepreneur looking at their bank account.
Mm,
you know, Stuff's coming in that need to pay and they've no money, but they're just not taking the right action.
no,
With Albert Einstein, you can't solve a problem with the same thinking you went into it. So
no,
realistically, we have to be thinking about the solution, not the problem. Uh,
100%.
when we talk about mindset, most people have, 95% mindset and 5% strategy. But in fact, it's actually the opposite. It should be 95% strategy and 5% mindset because it's the strategy that gets you out of the solution, that gets you out of the problem. A guy once came to me and said to me, my income, I need to make money. I need to make money. I need you to help me to make money. And I said, but do you want to make money? And he goes, no, I need to. And I says, but that's the problem. When you need something too much, you're actually
You
pushing it
don't get
away.
it.
You're going against the grain. So you
Yeah.
need to step back out of that, and start working. So I said to him, well, look, I can give you a solution. I said, go to your local market. He's saying he can't get a job and no one will take him on. So I said to him, go to your local market and buy a box of apples. And I said, go to the local street corner and start selling them for twice as much you got them. And he goes, no, I won't do that. And I said, so here's a guy who wasn't prepared to do what he needed to do to make money, but yet he was depending on me, to help him to create or solve his needs. So,
Crazy.
as I said, you can look at it different ways. But at the end of the day, the person needs to have a little bit of hunger there, so you can help them, grow from that.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. It's at the end of the day, it's no one's coming to save you. It's all still gonna come down to yourself. But
Yeah, I agree with
yeah,
that.
it's even just to kind of add to that piece there. The interesting thing as well about the subconscious mind is that exactly like you said there, Barry, around like the needingness. Because a lot of people like me myself had this big desire to break into advertising. It took me about 6 months of, really wanting to get in, but not actually, get the opportunity.
Yeah,
And I think that's something that can, cause a lot of frustration for a lot of people. And I certainly did myself, is even like with that desire and all the action, um, I was needing it too much and it wasn't manifesting.
yeah,
Well, a big thing that I came across, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Neville Goddard.
yeah.
Um, yeah, he's a
People that-
famous,
Yeah,
yeah, famous manifestation teacher. He's known for this technique called the knot technique because the subconscious mind actually doesn't know the difference between
yeah,
you saying that you don't have something and you having something, and actually saying that I don't have, insert desire,
yeah.
actually creates this detachment, which speeds up the manifestation again. And the subconscious mind doesn't know that. All it knows is the feeling, and that feeling of detachment and abundance um, is actually what, manifests even faster. So it's wild stuff.
Look, Neville talks about, in Power of Awareness, one of his books, and he talks about the assumption of having received what you're going after,
Yeah.
be thankful for having received it. And that's really what it's about, because if you're thankful for what you haven't received, even though you haven't received it, you're actually manipulating the mind to believe that it's happened. So therefore your mind is attracted to what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And again,
Right.
when we talk about he talks about another story about in fact, an employee, and she goes into work every day and she hates working with a particular, the owner or whatever.
Mm.
But in fact, she didn't really get to know him, but she just had, the assumption that, he was not so nice. But anyway, long story short, when they sit down and talk, she got to know him, and they became best of friends. And of course, then she enjoyed going to her job. And
Mhm.
that's again, when we look at, our mental faculties, she was her perception
Mm.
of what the problem was. But, we see this every day in life where people tend to criticize somebody for something, but in fact, they actually don't know the situation. And then
Mm.
when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and then you start to understand it, I think this is where it makes a big difference.
Yeah, so it's like you get that different perspective, isn't it? Because it's like that paradigm. I believe that's the name of your company, Paradigm Coaching.
Yeah.
Um, it really is that paradigm shift, and understanding as well that perception is reality. It's a famous saying. I don't know who said it, but you can control that perception to a certain degree, but having the ability to also question your own perception and yeah, really get to know people. And it's from that book as well, the magic of thinking big, like always thinking right towards people, even
Yeah.
if you feel like they haven't done you right, or if they've come across maybe a certain way, that actually by thinking right towards them, you can change your perception of them, and then suddenly they become a different person. So yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, look, even Neville Goddard talks about, the mind when he refers to, a rich man, a poor man, a beggar, or a thief. They've
Mm,
all got the same minds. They're just the arrangements of them are different.
sure.
And that's basically back to, the paradigms. Because you got to
Mhm.
remember when you're born, you inherit your paradigms from your ancestors, your habits and your beliefs. And then most of them are controlled as you grow up. So by the time
Mhm.
you reach a certain age, you've already, adapted to what's in your subconscious, which is your paradigms. And the only
Yeah.
way to change them is to rewire the brain and its thinking and adapting the new mindset.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was actually something I only came across there like literally last weekend. Is this whole idea that, back in the days there was very specific classes in society, and it was very much like do or die, like which class you're in and how those classes mixed.
Yeah.
And like you said, like that literally influences the way you think on like a genetic level. So depending on what class, like you said, your ancestor actually comes from, that actually has a massive influence in the way you view the world. And unless you take a huge amount of action on a daily basis, through physical action and through the subconscious, visualization and reprogramming, you know, it's very hard to live a different reality than that reality of your ancestors, So it's
Very true.
yeah.
Look, you hit on a note there earlier, Jack, when you were stating that, like when the repetition of something and then taking action and moving forward with that. And that, you mentioned about a lot of the action you took with your business, but you felt like it was getting exhausting.
Mm,
Sometimes, it leads to burnout. And that's where people get it wrong. They think that they need to take more action, so they need to work harder instead
mm,
of working smarter. Now, people can, there's a difference between the harder and the smarter, because harder means obviously you're working harder, but smarter doesn't mean that you do less,
no,
to achieve your results. It means that you're just working a little bit smarter with the actions you're taking. So if an action is not working, you stop doing it, but you have to shift to another action that will. So it's like somebody saying to me, I run a business and I want to get, X amount of clients. And I say, great, what have you been doing? And then I can guide them through what they need to be doing. So, let's say if it were a platform and they were reaching
yeah,
out, well, it really is about reaching out to the right people on that platform that are going to either encourage you, help you, or become a client. Whereas what
uh-huh,
most people do is they cast a net out and reach out to everybody within the platform, which leads to burnout. So
yeah,
they haven't honed down on specific, like if you wanted to earn 1 million a year, you're going to break it down to months, to weeks, to days. Now you know what action steps you need to take per day to reach to that goal, you know, i-
yeah,
without losing the vision of the bigger goal.
yeah. No, it's completely that, and it's yeah, it's like people, because the law of attraction, it's a powerful force to harness the power of, but it's got the word action in it for a reason, and
Yeah.
I think that's where it gets a lot of bad stick is, people will maybe only do the mindset side of things and they'll visualize and they'll be like, why am I not seeing any progress? But it's equally like you said, where it's taking like massive action on a very specific set of tasks over time, and having that patience and having the faith to keep going.
Look, I come across many people that I work with, and they tell me. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story about a guy who I'm working with at
Mm.
the moment. And we
Okay.
were talking yesterday, and he was telling me about, he wants to grow his business, and he definitely has hunger. He definitely has the passion, desire to do it, but he's stuck working in the business and not on the business. So
Gotcha.
therefore, he's going out and doing everything all day. Now, it's not that he has to give that up straight away, but he certainly has to put aside time so he
Yeah.
can start working, on the business and not in it. So we start off with a couple of hours a week and then go to half a day and so forth. But it was interesting where he had said to me, at the moment, I'm not getting much work. I have jobs set up for the future, in a couple of weeks. But he says, I've got a few weeks where I'm doing nothing, and I'd said to him, well, what do you think you could do? And he goes, I don't know. I feel a little bit stuck. And I said, well, look, first of all, go back to whoever you've worked with before and, see, can you get something from that? And he
Yeah.
said, yeah, he started to progress to tell me that he had a conversation with a guy that he works with in training, and he had referred him to this, guy that was going to give him a lot of work. And then,
Okay.
he progressed to tell me 5 minutes later that, he's speaking to a lady that told him that he should follow up with her to get
Mm.
work. So I had said to him, well, why do you think that, you've told me you can't have work for the next few weeks, but now you've told me that you actually have leads. I said that you could be utilizing. So I said, what's
Uh,
missing in the middle? What are we missing here? Where's the bridge? What's
okay.
happening? And he realized that he was so caught up in trying to find work, he wasn't concentrating on the people that were looking for him to do work. And but that's what happens with the conscious
Absolutely.
and subconscious. We get caught in our day-to-day habitual state of behavior and stuff passes by. But it needs somebody to point out, actually stop, step back and look and go, oh my God, it's sitting there beside me.
Yeah. So sometimes it's literally that simple, and it's you get so caught up in the day-to-day grind of like, hustling, and then
Yeah.
like you said, if sometimes the most productive thing you can do is just go for a walk. and take a breather. It's even a big thing I do myself now. Before I even start the day, is just go and, get the body moving, get some fresh air, and, just be very strategic on like, all right, like what can I do today that's going to make the biggest impact? And
Yeah.
anything else after that is like a bonus. But, you don't get that perspective when you're kind of stuck in the grind. And um, I can completely resonate with where he's coming from. So
Tell us more about the lead gen and
yeah,
what results that can have for someone's business.
100%. Yeah. So really, if you look at kind of what's happened in the last 12 to 18 months, Google is really what I'm zoned in on at the moment. Um, AI has obviously exploded, and the quality of that data in these platforms, previously it was Facebook and now it's Google, has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So, in terms of as a business owner, if you want to blow your business up, one of the best ways that you can do that is with online advertising. Now,
Yeah.
there is certain boxes that you need to tick um, before you obviously, evaluate, should you advertise on Google? And assuming the mindset stuff is ticked, that's all set and you've got a solid foundation to really look at it. The next step then is really looking at your business and like looking at the market that you're serving. Because, depending on what your business goals are, again, it's going to depend on if Google is the right platform for you. But, you know, depending on what you're selling, you have to make sure that what you're selling is damn good.
Yeah.
Because again, similar to the mindset, if the mindset's not in place, the ads aren't going to work. If you're not selling an excellent product or an excellent service, the ads are also not going to work.
Yeah.
So that's also like a crucial part that a lot of people kind of forget. They're like, let's rush online, let's start getting the word out there.
Yeah.
But if the product's not very good, or you're going to run into issues very fast. So step one is really doing analysis on your business and your product and saying, right, do we have the back end operations and logistics in place to actually handle more customers, right? Because if you don't have that in place, it can get very messy. Depending on what you're selling, of course. So that's really step one is look at your product and look at the market.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then just from there, like I suppose, is there any type of level of size of business that you would work with? So like small, medium, enterprise, or is it basically any business?
Yeah, so at the moment we're really focused on like large businesses. To be honest, like in the insurance sector, it is a big focus for us.
Yeah.
And really running like lead generation campaigns. But the beauty of Google Ads is you can make it work for any size of a business, but you still want to make sure that your product's in place and that your operations are in place to fulfill a high quality service. Because that's something that obviously Google's going to look out for. So, whether you're a small business or whether you're a business that wants to, scale with YouTube ads, for example, which is a big focus for me right now. Um, to give you an example of the scale with YouTube ads, there's a guy last year who did, I believe it was $50 million with one YouTube ad uh, as an affiliate. So now, similar to what I was saying there, he had to make sure the business he was working with had the back end in place, had customer service in place to make sure that they could sustain that kind of scale. But yeah, I mean, like the profit margins on that, I think he made like 30 million from the 50 million in sales and profit. So it's highly profitable, and the sky really is the limit
Yeah.
with um how big you can go with these. And his specifically was in the e-commerce sector, but yeah, Google's really there for you at every stage, whether you're a small business or a big business, or whether you're selling business to business or business to consumer, there really is a pocket to use Google in every area, as long as the back end's in place to actually sustain that scale.
Yeah, very good. Jack, where could somebody make contact with you, or how, if they wanted to, talk to you about lead gen and so forth?
Yeah, 100%. So I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best place to get me. So just Jack Middleton on LinkedIn. So yeah, happy to connect there if you've got any questions whatsoever.
Jack, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Insightful looking at various different vibration and manifesting, and of course, talking about lead gen.
100%. Thanks for having me, Barry.